Hey guys, it's Luke here with Brian, and Henry's asked me to put together a little stringing slash pocket video for you guys to work with so that you can know what sort of a stick and a pocket you should be using, just to make sure that they don't hook too bad or throw to the ground, and don't control the ball badly so that you guys can still shoot around and play well, but without having all the problems that are associated with bad stringing. So the first thing he's got me to mention is the type of mesh that you guys might want. Here are the two main types of mesh that we have around at the moment that are easy to access. Hero 2.0 from East Coast Dyes is good stuff. It's a slightly more plasticky feel, holds the ball a little bit better. This is a face-off version, but it comes in just a regular version as well. And then this is String King, probably the world's most popular at the moment. This is a soft and this is a hard. Both are still very, very good. You get a slightly more shifty pocket with the S because it's softer. And the X is similar as well. It breaks in quite nice, but it'll just hold a pocket slightly better. All three very, very good options. And today I've got a stringing video where I'm going to show you guys full stringing. I'm going to time lapse it later on so that get to the point where you want to see the important parts. But this is a piece of East Coast Dyes Hero 2.0, and I'm going to put it into this ECD Rebel offense head, which is just a fairly standard midfield attackman head with a bunch of string. And I'm going to show you where your pocket should go, what shooting setup you should have, and why they might be good for pretty much anyone's game. Alright, so I'm going to get started. This is what we call a standard 9-diamond top string. It just runs across the 9 top diamonds as you fold it over from the back. I put it into the side of the head right here, and then work my way across, just doing this basic knot all the way through. The 9-diamond top string just gets it nice and tight so that the ball doesn't get caught up underneath the shooting strings when you are catching and throwing and shooting. So what I've done here is just formed a combination of knots that pulls the top few diamonds of mesh down the head roughly to about halfway down. And what this does is keeps the top piece of mesh nice and tight. And the reason why you want this part nice and tight is because if you leave it really loose, when the ball gets caught up underneath the shooting strings, it has a tendency to throw down. So by keeping it tighter, and then subsequently at the end when we put shooting strings in, you use less shooting strings and you keep them nice and high, means the ball's more likely to fly out higher rather than go down low, because we all know it's bad to have to catch those balls that are thrown at your feet. So what I've done now is just use a combination of skipping diamonds in here, as you can see, running all the way down the head. I've skipped a couple in here. That essentially is where your pocket forms. So if you skip more to the middle, you're going to get a middle-ish pocket. The higher up you do your skips, you're going to get a higher pocket, because basically it's just where the mesh is left looser. Typically we want it to be around the middle or the low section. This will give us still pretty good control, but won't leave our ball just sitting up underneath our shooting strings, which is going to make the ball go towards the ground. So now I've just tied it off at the bottom here, just kept it nice and tight, tied it off on both sides, and now I'm going to put a shooting string and bottom string in. Alright guys, now that I'm done with the shooting strings, I'll just explain a little bit more about why they're positioned the way they are and how they should be tensioned to basically help you with your throwing style. So by putting just one shooter in like this is the one that looks like the hockey lace. What it does is it allows the ball to be given a different trajectory out of or add a different trajectory to the ball as it comes out of the stick. The lower you put this string, the lower and lower down this head, the more likely the ball is going to get caught on it, which causes it to throw down. So the higher you actually have this string and the looser it is, the more smooth release you're going to get out of the stick. When I say smooth, I mean that the ball just kind of feels like it rolls out and then can almost clip the top of this plastic. You can feel that little clunk just as the ball rolls out. Now that's why this next one, this one that's just like a nylon one like you see in the sidewall, that's why this one is there. So if you want the ball not to hit this top, you just tension this one by pulling on the strings and tightening the knots a little bit more. Now the tighter you pull it, the more it's going to throw down still. So I like to leave both of these strings fairly loose, and anyone that's ever had a stick like this from me before will have had it fairly standard in this setup. So what I'm going to do now is just cut off all the strings and burn them, just so that they don't fray, and then I'll explain a bit more about the pocket and the strings. Alright guys, that's the head completely finished now. I've cut down all the strings to 2 inches or less because that's what the rules are. You don't want to have those strings flying all around over the place, and when you score a goal, have your goal taken off you because your strings are too long. That would be silly. So I've made sure that that's all good. Another thing that you need to consider when you're having a stick strung or using your stick is that pocket depth will make a big difference to the way that the ball comes out. Now, you see too many people with pockets that end up being, you know, this deep. You should not be able to see any of the ball. You should be able to see some of the ball at the top of the plastic and not be able to see the daylight between the plastic and the ball, because that would be illegal as well. And the deeper your pocket is, the harder it is that harder time you're gonna have throwing with it. So what we like to see is just a good semi-deep pocket where the ball kind of just sits a couple of millimeters just above the plastic here, and that'll make sure that our stick doesn't throw too badly. The ball just comes out right exactly where we want it. You should just be able to throw with your stick directly over your shoulder, point to your target, and the ball should go straight there. If the ball is going too high, you might have to adjust your pocket depth slightly. If the ball for that action and for you is going too low, you might need to consider pulling your pocket up or taking out a shooting string. See, a lot of people put the U shooting string in your stick. Now some of the heads are good for that, depending on which stick it is. This one is not. I find that the tighter you can pull down these sides here, the more of a channel will be created in the mesh itself, and you don't actually need one. If you put one in there, what you might find is as it gets a bit wet or as your pocket starts to break in, the ball, it just gets caught, like right here, and it'll just go straight down to the ground. Or when you're shooting, if you're shooting round arm, which you probably shouldn't do, you're gonna miss the goal by, you know, meters that way. Shoot over the shoulder, you might hit the ground too hard and lose pace on your shot. All right, so it's all about a little bit of a balance between pocket depth, shooting string setup, and this one right here is typically standard of something that I'll produce for someone that wants it. Now, cost variations, fairly similar for all of these. Any of these meshes and stringing setups are about $30 to $35. It's fairly affordable. You shouldn't have to do any more than 1 restring a year or 2, depending on how you look after your stick and how much you end up using it. People that use it more or train more or play in more teams might need to restring more often. But something like this right now, this is going to last, if I go and use it, it'll last at least a year. Again, with pocket setup, any pocket that ends up too high, so if the pocket, this bulge in the pocket here ends up too much up to this part of the stick, up closer to the scoop, it's going to catch on these strings and the ball is going to throw directly down. We don't want that. If the pocket is heaps lower, that's fine as well. A lot of attackmen will prefer for the ball to be down a lot lower, because as you're cradling your stick, your ball actually feels like it's much closer to your hand and it feels like it's in control a lot more. But as a standard, this low mid pocket is a fairly good setup for anybody. It's a good one to just start with, and if you want to do minor adjustments, you can. Minor pocket depth adjustments can be done with this bottom string, and all you have to do is pull on it and tighten this knot, and the pocket will dramatically reduce in depth. Shooting string setup, if you're finding that it's definitely flying a bit too high for you, you can just alter the tension of these strings. Rather than putting 1, 2, 3 more in, all you have to do is just tension these, and you can get yourself a little bit more hold, a little bit more whip in your stick. But too much, and we don't get the ball going exactly where we want it. I think that just about does it. So here it is. East Coast Dies Rebel with a mid pocket. Exactly what we want. Hope that's good.
Alright!
Cool, my first video. Cool.
And then
Maybe we can, I don't know, what do you just like? Do some, I don't know, where do you reckon?
I'd say